Hello, how you guys doing? What's going on? Welcome to the Messy Sweet Spot. I am your host, Gigi, and when I tell you these sisters, it is a mess. They are telling me in this video that Toni Braxton, she is calling the sisters out. Yes, she is exposing Trina and Tawanda. And people are saying it looks like Tamar Braxtons was right about these sisters. Why can't they just all get along and make money just like those Kardashians? I have no clue. But when I tell you it is explosive and it's messy, you guys have to watch this video. Make sure you guys like, share, subscribe here at the Messy Sweet Spot, and let's get into some reactions.
So what would it look like for you if it were different? If you didn't have that responsibility and if they weren't leaning on you, what would your life look like? What would you be doing?
Well, I would have soared higher.
You think so?
Absolutely. I feel like I'm angry at everybody in my family. I don't like my family. If they weren't my family, they wouldn't be my friends.
Y'all, Toni Braxton didn't just carry the mic, she carried the whole dang family. And now sis is finally saying that what we've all been suspecting for years, that she was the bag and backbone, and it's got her back breaking, literally and emotionally. From the time she was just a kid, Toni was forced to grow up faster, perform, provide, and protect, while the rest of the family sat front row, reaping the benefits without lifting a finger. And now she's done playing nice. Behind the glitz and glam of Braxton family values was a mess that they kept under wraps, resentment, entitlement, and a family so used to leaning on Toni that they forgot that she had a breaking point herself. She especially called out Trina and Tawanda for crossing serious lines, stealing from her, taking what little piece she had left, while still making her feel like she wasn't doing enough. And that's the kind of heartbreak that money can't fix, because while fans praised her sisterhood, what we didn't see was Toni silently drowning while being expected to feed, clothe, shelter, and breathe again for everybody. Yeah, y'all, there's a whole lot to unpack here, so grab your popcorn so we can breathe again.
I know the burden on you is the one that made it out, but you gotta be willing to let them fly.
I feel like I do. I feel like they don't let me fly.
Now everybody knows the Braxtons are back on our screens, and baby, it's messy. From the outside, Toni Braxton looked like she had it all together: the voice, the Grammys, the glow. But behind the awards and magazine covers, she legit hated her life. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's put some respect on Miss Toni Braxton's name, like the queen that she is. Back when some of y'all were still in diapers or embryos, Toni Braxton was already winning Grammys, topping charts, shutting down red carpets, and redefining what R&B excellence looked like, all while feeding a family that thought her success was community property. Y'all want to call her an artist? I consider her a whole legend. 7 Grammys, over 70 million records sold, a voice that can make you cry in the club and in the church. And now she doesn't have that much to show for it.
170 million in sales, and you got $1,972? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. That's true.
It all started way back in Severn, Maryland, with 6 kids, a gospel singing mama, and a whole lot of dreams. Toni was the oldest, and when their mom had a serious accident and ended up in the hospital for a long time, everything changed. Childhood for her didn't end, and it just kind of got skipped. She became the stand-in mama and the caretaker, the one who made sure everybody ate and had a roof over their heads. Meanwhile, their daddy was at work trying to keep things afloat as someone who had to secure the bag.
About 13 or 14, my mom, she had a really bad accident. She fell. Her back was really messed up, so she was in hospital a long time. And so I was the surrogate parent for a moment.
Where was Dad?
Working, had to make a living, had 6 kids.
So when Toni's career took off in the 90s with that iconic "Unbreak My Heart" and "Breathe Again," the vibe at home shifted heavy. Instead of celebrating her success, her own sisters reportedly started treating her like a walk-in bank account. Toni recently opened up about how emotionally and financially drained she's been for years. According to her, she was carrying the Braxton name, and the Braxton bills, the Braxton car notes, the Braxton rent, she handled it. The Braxton business ideas that flopped, she funded those too. And while she never dropped receipts on how much she spent, it's crystal clear that they rinsed her dry. Now listen, Toni ain't naming names in every interview, but it's clear that Trina and Tawanda were high up on that list. She said it wasn't just emotional toll that it took. It was the fact that they wanted to get paid to work with her. Meanwhile, Tamar, as chaotic as she is, was out here helping pay for things without asking for a dime. Now that's loyalty. It's even spilled that when it came time to perform, Tamar sang backup for free, but Trina wasn't in invoices. Now, to be fair, Tawanda was an executive assistant, so she got paid, but even then, Tawanda still never helped her out. But even with their mom, Toni's words hit different when she said, "I could have soared higher if I didn't have to carry so much." Dang, y'all, that's real and that's deep.
And if they weren't leaning on you, what would your life look like? What would you be doing?
Well, I would have soared higher.
But y'all, this family feud is just heating up because what started as one sister's heartbreak is about to crack open a whole vault of Braxton secrets, the lies, the drama, the truth behind Tamar predicting it all those years ago. But moving on, let's just say when it rains in the Toni Braxton household, it pours. And not the cute kind, nah. This was full-on emotional, financial, and physical chaos. Remember, by this time, Toni was a pop icon fighting to keep her spot in a cutthroat industry. She was a woman under pressure, holding up a whole family while barely holding herself together. When I tell you that people played in her face during her hardest times, the disrespect doesn't even begin to describe it. Now, in case you're thinking that selling over $170 million worth of records and all the success she should have achieved would have her set for a life, well, hold that thought. You're not ready for the wild financial roller coaster that Toni Braxton was trapped in. Turns out she was out here making literal pennies per album. 35 cents per album to be exact, and Toni was feeding an entire record label while her own wallet stayed starving. Imagine being the face of success and still going home empty-handed. And when she finally said enough is enough and took her label to court in 1998, what happened? 8 weeks later, she had to file for bankruptcy. Again, it wasn't from spending crazy, it was from being trapped in a predatory contract that forced her to pay back the label for things like travel, studio time, outfits, and music videos. She was literally financing her own fame and then paying it all back, getting nothing in return. But people only got to learn how bad Toni's situation was while on an interview with Oprah, one that turned into a hell of a disaster. You'd expect a queen to recognize other queens in a crisis, right? But instead, Oprah sat Toni down on national TV and gave her the most cold, condescending, "Why are you broke if you're famous?" types of moments in her career. Toni was expecting compassion, but what she was met with was humiliation.
I read that you were upset about stories that your overspending caused this, because it would appear, and you can explain to us whatever you want to explain to us, but it would appear that even if you don't believe that you got the percentage that you felt that you got, you still knew that there was a certain amount of money coming in.
Exactly.
And exactly. And you overspent that amount of money.
Well, I was doing math. 1 + 1 is 2 all day long, all across the world.
Y'all, the backlash from that interview flipped public opinion against her. Not only that, but word in the streets is that Oprah even tipped off Toni's label about the interview, warning them that she might expose them. Like, who does that? But it felt like she was more loyal to corporate execs than to the women sitting across from her. So in the end, the interview wasn't just a bad moment, it was a career setback. Still, Toni tried to bounce back, but then came 2010 when life threw another punch. She was diagnosed with microvascular angina and lupus, which forced her to cancel her lucrative Las Vegas show. By this point, it was clear that the devil was working overtime in Toni's life because just as things were going from bad to worse, her insurance didn't cover the Vegas cancellation. So guess who had to pay all out of pocket? Yes, y'all, her. That's production costs, lighting, musicians, hotel rooms, salaries, everything, all gone. And just like that, she filed for bankruptcy again.
How did that happen?
Because I allowed all my finances to become everyone else's finances. That's pretty much how I got here.
Then just when you think things couldn't get any worse, the IRS and the California Franchise Tax Board pulled up uninvited in 2010. Like, cough up that coin and run us all money. Well, according to court documents obtained by the gossip site, the IRS filed the first lien against the singer before the new year on December 4th. The lien reportedly states that Toni owes a total of $340,252.99 in back taxes for 2017. However, her tax troubles didn't stop there. Days later, the state of California Franchise Tax Board also hit the 51-year-old singer with a tax lien of $116,154.64 for money owed, bringing her total of liens to $456,407.63. Both the IRS and the state of California warned Braxton to hurry up and pay, or they will start the process of seizing her property. Seriously, how does a woman who's still touring, still iconic, still making moves, still beautiful, end up drowning in debt over and over again? Well, according to insiders, it wasn't just the labels and the sickness. Toni was also carrying her entire family on her back. We're talking bills, responsibilities, emotional support, everything.
None of my siblings have helped me take care of my mother to make sure she was okay, except for Tamar. No one said,
This is before Vincent.
Before Vince, Mommy's car insurance is due. Let's help Toni with Mommy car insurance.
And allegedly, the same financial strain that's affected them for years came to light when their reality show picked up. Turns out her sisters had issues with how much more Toni and Tamar were being paid. Now, reports say it got heated to the point where production had to pause filming, and Toni stormed off and allegedly said she was done. And can you blame her after everything she's been through? Fame, illness, exploitation, family tension, public shame? You could argue that Toni Braxton is still standing, but at what cost and in what condition? But let's zoom in on this feud between the sisters. Just a quick reminder that we're talking about fully grown adults with voting rights in their late 40s and late 50s, still beefing over their sister's corn like it's high school lunch money. But money aside, the Braxton sisters just can't stand each other. How they managed to shoot that show is a mystery that needs to be studied. But when I tell you it's getting way too real in the Braxton household, from blocking each other to calling the whole family toxic, the drama is eating everybody up, including Toni Braxton, because she's tapped out.
Because at this stage in my life, I'm exhausted on my sister's behavior.
But let's start with this mess, because before Traci passed, Toni said they all promised to keep the peace for her. But y'all, ain't nobody keeping that promise. In fact, it's worse than ever. Reports say Toni is done, like she's over all the chaos. Word on the streets is that none of her sisters showed up to support Tamar's premiere for her cooking show. Like, nobody. And why? Apparently a major fight popped off just 2 days before the event. And right after that, Tawanda started throwing subs online, like, to everyone who distanced themselves from me, kindly stay there. And y'all, it didn't stop with that. Tawanda tied the knot with her longtime man, Sean Hall, after 9 years. And while Toni and Trina were there as her bridesmaids, Tamar was nowhere to be found. So clearly, some sisters are picking sides. Then there's this awkward tension from their own reality show. When someone asked Tawanda how she felt about not having access to Tamar, Tamar jumped in saying Tawanda just doesn't care about her. Tamar even said she always is the one reaching out first, and that Tawanda only hits her up when the cameras is rolling. Tawanda, on the other hand, as unhinged as she's always been, simply said, I quote, I don't pour into certain vibes anymore. Translation, she's done giving Tamar that sisterly grace. Tawanda literally added that she's only focused on her household now, her kids and her man, period.
It's a matter of respect. I respect where people are. That's just
Is that where
I respect where people are. I don't engage. I don't pour into certain types of energy.
Mm-hmm.
I make different choices in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just where I am.
I don't know about y'all, but it feels kind of like even though Tawanda has always appeared as the level-headed one, she's been playing a long game. Really, there's been tension for years. From what's being said, she's leaned on Toni a lot, especially during her divorce and when her coins weren't right. Now, supporting her sister, that's normal, but Toni's energy lately says she's feeling more used than supported. It's given, I got you when you needed me, but where were you when I needed you? And fans are going wild online, choosing sides, and some are saying Tawanda's always had issues with Tamar, and others claim it's jealousy over Tamar's career. But that isn't just a two-sister beef, it's affecting everybody. Even Toni, who's been the glue for years, supporting, working, being a breadwinner, is pulling back. People are saying the emotional toll from all this might have even worsened her health conditions. This person said, we did not want the Braxtons to come back just to see them arguing all the time. We want to see them loving on each other. That's what we need to see. This person said, sometimes you just need a long break from your family. They sound like they need that break. Another one wrote, Toni is owed so much in so many ways. And then there's this last comment that hit the nail on the head. It always begins with their parents, especially their mom. She needs to be blamed. But y'all, we gotta take a backtrack real quick and talk about Traci and the real cost of family fame for the Braxtons. Because, listen, if we're keeping it a buck, the real heartbreak in all this Braxton mess was Traci. Before she passed in 2022, Traci Braxton had already been carrying a lifetime of pain. Like, y'all remember how she was basically cut from those early music deals just because of an early pregnancy? Yes, that hurt ran deep, and even though she tried to smile through it, everybody could feel that she never fully got over it.
Everybody has a narrative of, we left Traci behind. We signed without Traci. Now, that part is true. We did sign without Traci. But the fact is this, we signed in August. Traci was pregnant with little Kevin. Back in the 90s, you could not be a female and be pregnant. And what they said is they want every woman to want to be like you and for every man to want to be with you. That was it. And honest to God, me and Trina was like, damn, we don't want to sign. Traci was like, go ahead.
And it somehow affected her relationship with Toni, which went beyond sisters having petty spats. It was layered. There was love, no doubt, but it was the kind of love that had been bruised too many times, the kind that never really got a proper chance to heal. And now with Traci gone, all that unspoken stuff just lingers in the air like a ghost. So when Toni starts talking about feeling dried up, yeah, it's about money, but it's also about emotional exhaustion, guilt, grief, regret, all those heavy things that come when you lose someone and you know their words are left unsaid.
Makes it a little more difficult. Sometimes I wake up every morning and I go, oh, did I dream it? Did I dream it? And I have to remind myself, no, she's gone, but she's been here with us for 50 years. So I try to relish in that moment and I try to smile about it and just be grateful for the time you have. And you have to always remember to be kind to one another. We're sisters, so we're always going to fight. That's what sisters do, okay? It's the rite of passage to fuss and fight, but in the end, we're always there.
This whole Braxton family values thing, at first, it felt like a win and fans were hyped and the brand was booming, but behind the scenes, it was ripping them apart. Like, imagine already having beef with your family and now there's a camera in your face ready to broadcast it to millions. That's not healing, that's pressure cooking the problem. And Toni reportedly said, I don't want to be the strong one anymore. That line alone had people in shambles. Like, do you know how many oldest daughters, big sisters, and go-to girls felt seen by that? That's not just a quote, that's a scream for help. Well, Tamar seems like she's ready to heal, but Tawanda's silence is quite loud. And with Traci gone, Toni's probably realizing that time waits for no one. And if you ask me, this isn't just celebrity drama. It's not about clout or views. This is about a woman who gave everything, love, money, energy, and finally said, I'm tired. But the plot thickens, y'all. Because let me tell you, this show is about to get messier. In case you don't know, word in the streets is that Tamar just pulled the ultimate Braxton curveball by bringing her niece Ashley Braxton into the new season of the Braxtons. Y'all, this move is causing serious waves behind the scenes, and let me explain this though. You see, Ashley isn't just some random niece. She's the same one who came forward with the story that shook their entire family dynamic years ago when she was just 16. Ashley said Trina's then husband Gabe started her, not flirting, a grown man texting a teenager in a way. And Ashley didn't keep quiet either. She told her parents, as she should, and they told Trina, and at first Trina showed love and that she was sorry and she stood by her niece. But as time went on, that support turned into silence and then shade and then full-on blame. Trina allegedly told people Ashley was old enough to know right from wrong, and some even claimed Trina believed something physical happened and blamed Ashley for it. But let that sink in. A 16-year-old gets preyed on by a grown man and she becomes the villain in her own family. And Trina cut her off and never looked back, and Ashley has been carrying that pain for years. Now fast forward to this messy new chapter. Tamar, who's also had drama with pretty much every sister at one point or another, decides to bring Ashley on the show. And not just for a one-off, Ashley's reportedly got a real role this season. And Tamar says she's bringing her on to the show to show support. She wanted Ashley to know somebody in the family had her back. But y'all already know how this family moves. Nothing is ever just one layer deep. The sisters are already beefing to the point that production had to be halted. But now that Ashley's stepping into the mix, everything's bubbling over. And some folks think Tamar brought her on just to be messy and to stir the pot. But Tamar says it's deeper than that. She said she wanted Ashley to know that not everybody in the family turned their back on her. So maybe bringing Ashley on board could be about healing, or it might be a recipe for even more fallout, especially because this isn't about a niece joining a show. It's about old wounds, hurt feelings, silence, blame, and finally someone saying, I'm not holding this in anymore. But whether it's gonna heal the family or split them even more apart, y'all, we gon' see. But honestly, this season of the Braxtons might be their realest and last one yet. But I guess the moral of the story is that even the ones who seem the strongest need someone to check in on them too. Because once the cameras are